you could build.
It's all fair enough. So, yeah, experience. I think there might
Which that part was like, yes, someone with enough time and energy could just make like a whole server unbuildable entities. It sounds like something like seed weapons now.
Space.
The ability to like have a cannon.
Yeah. Hey, are we hearing me? All right.
Andrew is coding
Yes, mute the Twitch. No one wants to hear the Twitch. Especially not Twitch.
These are
Have some black metal.
Hi, Twitch.
Much better.
Tyler is weird.
They're kind of like
Tyler likes to be on camera.
I do. Like, how is this not Lovecraft? Basically,
I had a lot of monsters.
like technical monsters.
That's not surprising.
Technical monsters.
And when I send you the sequence, I think you.
Yes, I haven't done it once.
The second one's cooler, but the first one is fun.
Divine fun.
It takes about 2/3 of it.
Oh boy. Those are the things that end well.
One.
That's amazing.
Hello all. I'm just fixing one or two little teeny things and then we'll start playing. Starting with Don't Say Michelle. So, where is the new programmer? First off, can you actually hear me? I'm not like cranking the music over me and all that action.
Yeah, it looks like they're using, from what I can gather, just with what is building stability? How does it work? It looks like they're using predefined pieces and basically saying this one has such and such stability. You add something on, it takes off that stability, adds stability.
Alright,
Basically.
so what the heck am I doing today? Well, right now I am getting ready to work on the editor. Now, we've kind of had this really basic editor for a long time, which I'm going to launch up and run right now.
I mean, I'm not sure.
Could probably add in some window region type stuff here once the editor finishes launching its butt.
I just need to get some of the baseline coding first.
Okay, now the editor's open. Let's get Twitch actually paying attention to it. There we are. So here is our editor, which right now is frankly not that awesome. So it's done the basics of building the worlds that you've seen so far. You had to click through the mature content warning because fuck you. That was my answer and I'm sticking to it. So Yeah, also because, you know, Tim and Michelle talk like Tim and Michelle. No, I'm just mature. It's my beautiful gray beard. So, yes, this is our editor, which does the very basics. I'll show you some of the things in it. Like, to reposition this guy, I select him over here in the scene list, and I hold down the keys on the numeric keypad to move him around. And you know, that's not really what we'd call optimal. So that's the first thing that I'm taking care of in kind of this great big restructuring of the editor. Well, actually, even before that, you know, I can't even click on people to select them. So the first thing I'm taking care of is just selecting people. So yeah, this is what it takes for me to stream. It pretty much needs to be something that's like, all right, here's a clearly defined task that is really visual to look at. So when I have those, I generally try and turn on the live stream.
I think I'm on it.
So here we are. Can't click on him. You'll see up here I can switch over to another zone, look around that zone.
Yeah.
That's me when I was 16, 17, 16.
And the zone loads in. But again, no clicking. So that is Tyler's #1 request to make things better. And so we're going to.
No clicking. No clicking.
So going back over here, and here we have beautiful visual C++.
Just scared
Just over here. So you can deal with my face. Yes, that looks face-tastic. My mom actually likes this, even watches the stream sometimes, and she says, "Oh, Andrew, I saw your face." So I'm not actually joking. My mom's cool. So anyway, yeah, here we are, and the editor in general is one great big WPF app with you know, bits of the client embedded for, you know, doing the actual 3D view. And up here is the zone edit view, which, you know, no surprise, it's a UI element for UI element for WPF, and that's the thing that actually sits in the top left corner, and that's where we render the scene and where you click on things. And so I've sort of ripped out the old one, which was literally using the game client, and you know, gone to something that's actually a WPF view instead of having an actual client window in there, so we can integrate the UI well. So inside this, I made the concept of input modes. So there's more than one input mode that you can handle whatever's going on. So, you know, like when you click on a gizmo, which we're also going to add today, or when you click in the background to pan the camera, or whatever thing you're doing, you know, one of these input modes will, you know, will handle the input, and there's just like a hierarchy of them that says, hey, I'm a, you know, I handle dragging gizmos, I handle moving the camera, and first thing to add is a just copy and paste that and say, here's a placeable select input mode, and here's an input mode that will select placeable things. And kind of by having this, like, you know, these objects like this, I'm able to just, you know, add various things that can do without having to deal with like lots of in-between code. So now we've added the placeable select input mode, and let's see, over here in, and by the way, this is, you're probably going, what the heck is that? You know, exclamation placeable select. We are using managed C++, or rather C++ CLI, which acts as a bridge between the native code in the client and the C# code in the editor. So there's going to be a few things in here that are going to look a little weird. Basically, imagine that I'm writing C++ to do C#, or writing C# in C++. So anyway, first thing to do is actually implement this placeable select input mode, and go over to the actual project. And I had, before we checked in, actually already created an input selection. So I'm going to, because I'm using Visual Assistant, it is awesome. I'm going to say refactor, create method implementations, select all of those, and all of those just get made for me. So I'll just grab these empty function bodies and go over to the input selection file, and here's my start. Yeah, here's the file. And standard thing that you always have to do when you're using C++ CLI is make your destructor call your finalizer. So the only thing that's really going to be interesting in this is on left mouse button down, or on mouse left button down. Also, just to maybe make all of this a little cleaner, I'm going to say using namespace standard, blah, blah, blah. I'll just copy it from another file. Then I can get rid of all of this stuff like the zone editor stuff and improve the signal to noise ratio on the code. That's something that is kind of, something that doesn't get talked about, but I'm a big believer in, is just what is the signal to noise in your code? How much stuff is there to do things versus how much stuff is there to, just sort of show how the things that actually do things connect together. And I think code is a lot more readable and useful when you don't have a lot of things in the way of what you're actually doing. C++ is probably the worst language in the entire universe when it comes to signal to noise, followed by Java. C# is good. F# and Python are better, but for various reasons we don't get to use those here.
Just gathers the things before it. Well, it would be like,
So, just checking out over here. Anything exciting in the form. So, anyway, going over to on mouse left button down, and the main thing we want to do is just in our, or we have a member that's the view, which is the zone edit view. View.scene. And here we want to raycast this, and actually before that I'm going to pull up another file called scene render image. Put it over here so you can see it. Like, screens are actually huge. Huge tracts of code. And I'm going to copy this little bit here out, which tracks the mouse into 3D and then does a hit test, because C++ CLI won't. You can't pass lambdas back and forth between managed and native code, basically. If you're a programmer, you know what a lambda is. Lambdas are awesome, and C++ CLI makes them a pain.
You can aggregate all of those.
So making this function to do a native check selection wrapped in my managed off or native file selection.
Which one of those to put into any given ability?
It doesn't really need a max disk because we're just going to
on whatever their aggregate requirements are that they're not
return a placeable ID.
This
what this will return.
And then you
So,
have another thing that's loaded fire.
So you don't need, we're not tracking gizmos anymore.
Those actions that like
Add in a zone placeable header up here, so up at the top of the file so that we know what actually I'm just going to bring all this down, and so you can see me add my missing include files. And that's a managed file. There will be more, so I'm just going to make this, or that scene is a native file from the real client. So I'm going to wrap it up in this so it gets compiled the way it should be. So placeable ID result equals placeable ID none. Set the maximum distance that we're going to search to infinity. And what we're going to do is, as we run through the scene, or every time we hit something, we're going to reduce this, which, then like for future queries, the distance is smaller, so a lot of things will just get chopped out quickly. So here we have our renderable, and we'll just say float hit dist equals our trace ray editor only, which is a function I wrote just before we turned on the stream, and it's probably going to be broken. So the first thing we're really going to do is I'm going to put all the parts of this together and then start running. So if the hit distance that, how far it was until we hit some triangle on that renderable thing is less than the distance we've tested so far, then test distance equals hit dist. And if I'm remembering right, yeah, this has a weak pointer to an entity. That's not actually what we want. So we need to somehow get the placeable that we, because renderables are just, I'm a mesh, I live in the scene, draw me. But just to start getting, just to start actually testing the code, I'm going to replace this with a temporary, a shared pointer to a renderable hit thing, and have to pass that into the lambda. And that's actually, and then all we need to do is return false to say, nope, don't stop tracing this ray, and that code's going to run through everything in the scene and figure out what we hit. And trace ray editor only, you're going to see me debug that very soon, because I'm sure it's broken. And the reason that is editor only is is that it just does something really gross, which is, oh, let's just build an octree of all the triangles in this object on the fly and trace into it, and that's not something you really want to do at runtime. There are way faster ways to, pre-build things, but
Because yes, it also has to carry like, okay, my bow is drawn, that can carry forth the arrow that I drew, the bow.
Right, that's what we're talking about. That's like if you do the quick rolls.
Right.
You'll shoot the arrow will have more projectile way. You don't get any extra.
so now this is all just
So that, it homes and aggregate of which is the projectile goes faster and it homes them.
Right.
a bunch of placeholder stuff to take something that was once a part of
Just have to say, grab all the previous stuff we grabbed.
Exactly. You'll have it stand like that says
something entirely different and
and the children
moving it in here. So in theory, I should just be able to I should just be able to click in the scene and we'll come through and say on left button down, and then that will call this, and that will find everything we need just from the object, but it's certainly broken. But before I can do that, one last thing I have to do is I have to go back to my zone edit view, and I'll just put this down. Here's where I'm creating and initializing my input stuff. So I'm going to just add a placeable select input mode. That will be, actually I'm going to say that one is probably has to be slightly higher than the camera. So camera is kind of the last, if nothing else we clicked on wants to do anything with the mouse click, then the camera controls will be the last thing when you just click in the background.
Yeah, I just, since this is going to be
So now it should go. So we're going to do our big fat build. Or rather, we'll fix my compile error. Which obviously I need to actually call this thing. Just get this better name.
While you are in the stance, there are
Find placeable. Placeable is just sort of the all-purpose word for a thing that is in the scene.
Right.
That's a different thing that we have.
Okay.
And now the compile hamsters do their compile hamster thing, and
Yeah.
and finally we're up. Well, slowly, waiting on this to load.
Yeah, so it'll have the ability builder, like from a player perspective, right? It'll have the builder, and it'll have a place where I can be like, okay,
So,
oh, okay.
new world editor,
I'm talking about the player.
and here we are, we've got that, and I'm just gonna try debugging it, start by just a left click totally off from everything. Put my breakpoint here, click there, and see it does get called. So now that we know that's working, I'll set my new breakpoint in here. And try this again.
also done it.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be working. Set another breakpoint. Yep. Just doesn't like breakpoints on that line. Oh, lambdas, I love you. So, I'll set breakpoint inside here and see what we get. And we didn't hit anything, which is right. Let's see what happens when we get over here. And
Projectile speed would go.
so we didn't hit that thing, or at least we think we didn't hit that thing. Run it again. So that's done the right thing. We have everything in a knock tree, so now the question is, why did we not hit the thing that we wanted to hit?
This arrow will explode anyway.
So I'm going to click this again, and we will trace into this function that I added. So here we go. Invert our world transform. That's, how do we get from the coordinate space where every model is made, like with, standing on 0, 0, 0 in its own local world to being somewhere in the world. And let's see. Look at, look over here at what I'm doing. Sorry, you can't see my debugger and the code at the same time. So our renderable has a world transform of nothing very exciting, pretty much just standing there at move down 1 meter. So our inverse world has a transform of normal size and moved up 1 meter. So take our local start.
A poison arrow, right? So your bow doesn't do poison.
Compare that against what the actual start was. And so, yeah, that moved our local start up 1 meter.
The poison arrow, that's when we added a new action that we wouldn't have done if
Not
we
going to
would
do anything interesting to the direction that we're casting a ray through. And scale should be 1. Or not.
I'd have to add like a effect.
So now it's the part where we trace a ray into the actual mesh. And this is going to be the part where, as promised, we're having our bugs. So pretty much on demand, this thing builds an octree of all the triangles in the mesh, and that's clearly not what's not going well for us. It's already built here, so. So I'm actually going to say, are we even intersecting anything by tracing into here? We should be, we're not. Alright, so we're not intersecting anything at all. I'll pull this over here just to look at what is up with this tree.
Right, because the modifiers are eventually going to be able to add secondary things. Like, this is a modifier that, creates a trigger on the next time you take damage to explode.
Actually, even cooler than that. I'm just going to set this as my next statement and rerun this. And step into my ray query function.
Node on the tree for leading or
Actually, where are we?
what you want. Could potentially clone off the tree and have the data.
On second thought, I'm just gonna go back here and set breakpoint to this, and click on this thing again. Clear all the other breakpoints because we've narrowed it down to where things are bad, and I'm going to just set this thing's try-tree to null so it has to regenerate it for me. This is a really tiny mesh, so that won't be that annoying to step through. So make a new try-tree, and we step through all the mesh groups. See what we've got. First group has 12 vertices and 18 indices.
So right now, we've already got it in place once a year.
Just seems a little high for something that's just 2 quads. But
Faster, that's essentially a modification of the projectile. But if you want
and here, like this is such an editor-only piece of code. I'm just totally abusing the things that would write stuff into a vertex buffer on your graphics card to get the data out. Don't do this at home.
wanted to fire that effect tree that was sort of like in.
And take a look at what my vertices are. That all looks pretty sane. Plus and minus 5, and roughly 0 up to 10 in Z. So, figure out why we're not getting anything good. Try-tree item is a special odd-tree item that I made that, our tree is all templates. It's templates all the way down. So, the definition for it looks kind of like this. So it's just those little things. The plane, the edges, and the normal. So we can quickly test against it. So.
The arrow itself probably.
And I just made a mess of everything by adding all that spacing because
it's not optional. Right? You have to have them. Right. And they have effects of like cause explosion that causes everyone around you to burn for 5 seconds and be more vulnerable to some fire damage. Wherever it is. So they have a tree in there. But they're also being layered on top of the weapon. It's also a secondary. But it's also a primary, right?
So here we've set the bounds. I'm going to look at what we set up the bounds of this little item to be. So that looks good so far.
So for range, your secondary.
So this is going to be the bounds of one of the triangles on the bottom of it.
Your bow, your secondary would be load stance, aim stance, fire action, release, maybe load action.
And try-tree insert is going to go insert this thing. And why does this not want to insert? So here we're figuring out how big the tree, not tree needs to be, and
Genesee says they can't see your code.
I can't see the code. Oh, probably because the editor is running. I'll have to remember to hide the editor while I'm debugging the editor. Sorry about that. Actually, I know an awesome trick I can do here.
There's a capability to
Let's see.
store this stuff for later, and then another ability to say, take stuff that's stored and use it.
Big Visual Studio, color key.
Setups like where it's like a trigger or something, where it's like, put a bomb on something, so put the trigger for the bomb explodes.
Make it merge, and then.
So there might be some other
Oh, like, yeah, it's gonna say that this one added it, this one added it, so you do like a status
chatting, so like possible to just add that on. Okay. That's a range. Okay.
I mean, in theory, yeah, because, you know, it's just a tree, they could basically go grab that, write a motion to do a copy. Or, yeah. But the problem is I run into is it's okay. So,
I'll worry about this later. So, where was I? Yeah, so we built the first dot tree node. Tracing to inserting the item. There's something weird, probably something weird about the actual items themselves. Pounds still look good in here.
We wouldn't prove that necessarily. I mean, we could basically prove that.
And that's all good.
You know, then we could look at the action. So like if one have an arrow that points, but then
While I'm here, I'm going to take a look at the triangle edges and see if they're what they should be. So this next one also gets bounds for the bottom edge, which all looks good.
Yeah, like I said, like I can stand
Almost should be straight up,
because they behave in a way that's not the same as
which
any of our previously implemented types. Yeah, but
good enough.
yeah, that's like a good feature that might carry over.
The last thing is
And the normals at the edges are, so this is facing minus 1,000 is going to point that way. And
Yes, if you're back. So if you're in your like 3-step crossing, right? So draw, load, aim, go back one. Right? So you're going back from the game,
Oh, that's
load
not
it, or you're
right.
taking off the arrow and putting on a different arrow.
When you pull the arrow, are you going to
so our edges are, this kind of makes a triangle like
No, you're not going to want to.
this.
Okay.
No, so what it does is call it upsert.
It's pointing up like that. And so here we have the edge that, this edge right here, and check that its edge normal is pointing that way.
But is there a remove without replace?
Yeah, right now I just have like a roll up from a whole tree. Or over a whole stored block, or replace with whatever your stance is.
So if we want to do that, we just replace it with a blank set or something.
See, so here is the edge from,
Like it would only be like a weird case where you're just taking an arrow off and not replacing it with a
Yeah.
right fire.
Right.
You would, well, you might.
vertex 2 to vertex 1, which is,
That data would still be there, and if we use this state, then it's still
To tell you replaced it.
but is it good? I guess.
yeah, and that's all good. So those are good.
It's the same system where you take out the standard and have one replace.
well, so you use the sweat master slash.
So the question is, why are we not actually getting collisions with it?
Where, when you get to stage 3, you do your ultimate finisher attack, you only want to use the component that you stored in the stance.
Whereas where there's sort of an option based on what ability you're using, which things you're consuming out of your stack. In a more generalized purpose for like that, I would probably say yes. But totally not for any larger ability, because obviously you're just using up all the things you store every time.
If we decide that's something we need, I can probably just say, hey, default.
Here we are doing a ray query into
That way we don't really-
things.
But I would just, off the top of my head, I can't think of the case where you would want to do that.
And, oh dear lord, it's the Visual Studio
Sounds
March
really
of Death.
cool, of like having this multi-step progression thing for different types of abilities. Yeah, where there's like a state-based combo in the same sort of blackboard way, where it's not just like.
Why did I try and set a breakpoint inside a template?
The type A
Alright,
thing, a type
so
B thing, a type C thing, and to get to
hopefully
Y,
it's loaded
then
everything
you
it
wanna
needed
do
by
this.
now, and
But I also still want that guy to just be in like an offensive or a defensive stance the entire time. So I'm still not sure about how that's, yeah, still not sure what we're gonna do for that. Like in the same way of.
this will
like,
just
okay,
run,
we have
so
bar songs. Bars can be playing, you know, song 1, song 2, song 3, but the entire time they're in a weapon stance. So how are we layering those two?
tracing through, just checking the line against the nodes.
So right now, it's
Okay.
right now, there's one pushing arrow.
So on the UI side, would you be able to just see like which things you select, basically, so you
Okay, so that one,
get feedback on which buttons you're pushing, even though they're not doing it?
I was told that just X stands for.
that one says we
So
hate you,
push the button. You push 2.
and we've excluded the root node, so
Load your arrow. What does the user see when that button?
Your animation changes.
Do they see the button light up or go dark or cool
Your
down?
animation changes, and if there's a cooldown on that ability, it goes on cooldown.
Okay.
I came to work one day, my UI thing was down, I'm like, oh, what's going on? We decided to do it.
try that again.
So, I don't know.
So, what does our node look like in this fun octree? So here's our root node, and we'll say the center is pretty close to 0. It's big enough to contain all our triangles.
So for right now there won't be, but and like it will go on cooldown still, right? So like you'll push the button, you'll still see a response from the UI.
Min
like,
distance, max
hey,
distance
something
are
did
now huge.
Hopefully, I think JP's already got the animation stuff in for stances.
Not, yeah,
What most has got here, you just got to finish
Changing, well, I finished maybe so.
And now things are just weird. I'm going to length threading,
So that's one change, that's a refactor.
because it looks like we're calling into the same function twice in 2 different places, because my life is supposed to be hard.
You'll see icon light up while you do the animation, and then you'll be in your stance, in your drawn stance.
Oh, it's only in the main thread. We're just skipping around because Visual Studio.
But there's no new things happening in the UI exclusively for stances.
Would it be possible as you find everything to make buttons grayed out when you can possibly use them to find the right stance? Like if you have a
So,
draw
We're
and
gonna
a
defer
load.
that until we have requirements.
Okay.
Maybe have that as, UI test.
So what will happen right now is you try to push load, have it draw in your hospital.
We don't have requirements, so it's one.
So it'll just work. Okay.
You know, and that's the big game.
and my music's gone. Let's have more music. This next bit is a band called Barrows, and they're pretty awesome.
You would be able to, I can go and ask, I got to try to be busy. Just check the standings, so.
And they're not actually playing.
Why are we doing all these steps?
There we are. Right.
As far as I know, there's no other work that matters.
It's a rating macro.
So I guess the first big question is, are we even getting into any nodes to check their items? And again, we do the Visual Studio dance. suffer and suffer and suffer because Visual Studio. If you think this is bad, try Xcode.
I don't know, some talk requirements. We're gonna do that before we do these now.
Okay, so here we finally come in and um,
I don't know what those are.
Basically the same line as archery, like there's nothing really we need archery for, it would be just have archery at the beginning.
But again, like, we could shift the game without one piece.
So that's really good, that would be a good point, you could make it.
I mean, you could go.
We do it.
Button that is aggregated one.
It's a little bit different because you're able to actually defer, yeah, we front load the warm up and we defer the cooldown, so like, if you have 1, 2, and 3 as separate buttons, you do warm up, action,
Okay.
cooldown, warm up, action, cooldown, warm up, action, cooldown, if you have the front button, it's warm up, action, 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 cooldown.
So it creates first topics. Or it's multi-step something like some that has
It's the ability builder, you just set your actions.
cost for it.
Only the cost of setting your sectors. The cost of the.
so what I'm seeing here is we're never actually tracing into any nodes in our octree when we do that, because all of the stuff here is the high-level scene octree, not the actual inner octree. So let's just start by pulling off the tri-tree and saying, what is your major malfunction? So here's our root node.
So it's actually cheaper to build a combo.
Anyway, hold on.
Yeah, that's more than big enough. It's got a couple of items inside it. And in this internal buffer, I'll say iMesh provider, tri-tree item, pointer to that. What are the things in here?
Oh, these are just the gray ones with the different pattern. Gotcha.
Yes,
I see.
there's two of them in here. And they both look
So let me ask you, is there any this is able to jump through the dexterity of having every possible combination of abilities built into and able to choose the appropriate.
That's how they deliver
these rather than go 1, 2, 3.
The other ones came in a box.
3 button, or the 1, 2 button, or 1 and then the 2, 3 button. That's what we want.
The advantage of going with
So what I'm seeing here is that something looks very, very odd about the bounds inside of this second item inside here.
else based on the chain of situation that sort of attack happening. So
In particular, that minus 10,000 says, huh, something's way off.
Right, I get that, but again, just get your technical
Because there was no vertex that big in the original data. Moreover, that minus 10,000 is something that's well outside the actual bounds of this octree item.
the idea is that it's more of a risk, creating more desirability than it is.
I get that, that's fine, but it's because
So,
2 hours.
I tried to do something a little bit weird here, which is make all of the triangles sort of embedded in the nodes for reasons of cache performance, and I'm just going to completely backpedal off that and
Like I made it when if I press full
make it
then it maps it to my
make it so we just have pointers to them all the time. So,
Well, in the requirement system, especially for archery, we know.
so just change it so everything is pointers.
So it's fine, both
But yeah, I mean,
It depends on the same actions, like, each of these things, and combos for it, but this one's like, it's a place inside.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Do I wanna commit to doing 3 things at once, or do I want to do those 3 things separately so that I have the flexibility to change my mind?
Right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
But like, is there an advantage to having a million things bound? Probably, because then you can select from a larger number of things to
And
the exact perfect
But we're just
circumstances.
okay, now I'll do this the hard way.
Yeah, we'll talk about that, we'll talk about the same thing for magic, right? Yeah, the same thing for
Replace.
magic, where if you wanted to,
Magic, you definitely have gone through and
right, like,
and foiled out the.
because your magic is gonna be.
See if this magically gets better.
Whatever rune you're using,
There's a
whatever shape
depressing
you're using,
chance that it
whatever
will.
modifiers go along with that, right? And so,
I assume that
if you have a,
spell book comes in.
right, and so if you have a spell of like 7 components, and you're creating like every permutation of that 7 components, you're gonna end up with a whole mess of keybinds. But could you just have each of those components somehow bound to a key, and then be able to be like, okay, start macro.
Fix my bugs, make it go.
And go. Like, I think that would be cool. But that's like, not sure if we're gonna be able to do that. But if we did it for magic, we would sort of do it. Because I do agree with that sentiment of like, you know, it would be cool if you wanted to play both.
Well, I'm gonna make right now, basically what we said, until the spell book is one of the does interesting things, we can go crafted, like, the talent to write is like, accomplish this.
Yeah, you don't want to see my whole monitor. So, as I wait on my build,
How do you like, say, here's my 8 comments that are available.
oh, Visual Studio is being a bundle of joy again.
And then you're
When I press those buttons.
So I have to start, quit it, and restart it because it kept the process open.
That's absolutely true. It's just like a thing we would have to do if we want to give players native support for that.
And which is also something that says I couldn't just, if I hit a
So it can't. It
it
wasn't able to save the output of the build because, well, the debugger had decided to keep the old version of the game of the editor open for further debugging.
Sounds good.
So yeah, let me know when you want to down over.
So now we're back with a fresh copy of Visual Studio.
Familiarize myself with what I'm going to be doing, that I can ask you questions about this while we talk about that.
Sounds good.
This may magically get it much better now. In which case, there's a whole swath of code that I know I need to debug, but don't need to debug it today to make editor stuff go.
So, the assignment operator has to replace the hand with mutable and immutable cost. Broke something.
Just do that. They'll get extra.
So now we open up the editor.
Yes. I have no idea what's going on.
And click on this thing again. And we're still not getting any good hit results from it. So a breakpoint here, see what we're not getting. Go over to my watch window here. See, can you see this? No, you can't actually see my watch window.
Just say that part.
Let's just turn everything off and capture my desktop. That might go better. So many things to work with. Add my screen region again, and this time, hey, look at that, you can actually see it. Just need to move it down to the bottom. Turn off exclusive window capture, and now you can see what I'm actually seeing. So I'm seeing one good thing and one bad thing. What is my root here? So there should be two things in here. Get that. That's still not what I would have expected here. So I'm just going to look at the memory here and say, what's going on? And then remember what's going on and how this little guy works inside. So show me 4 of these, because there's an extra flag in there. So yeah, this is all exactly what it should be. So now I go back to my friend directed segment query. Set a breakpoint, wait a very long time. Because Visual Studio, you set a breakpoint inside a template and it systematically searches through every version of that template. Set my breakpoints.
So it's no wonder people are to it. But stories.
Now I can run, and here we are actually testing this stuff. So is node over here? Node should be the root of our tree, and obviously it's really big, so we should be passing through that easily, unless we're doing something particularly dense, which is always very possible. Actually, just to guard against that, I come up here and say, that's my direction, and where am I tracing from? And sure enough, this is definitely way off, because our normalized direction that we're tracing in is actually positive, which, well, we're tracing a ray that goes up from a point that is up, so how did we get here in the first place? So that's what we came in with. Go farther up our tree. What were the start and direction here? So yeah, Z is what? Is there something crazy going on here? That is all exactly what I would expect to see.
Yeah, and like I said, I only got really like yesterday. I did like 3. Yeah, but
Oh, because I am an idiot. I was actually taking a direction and translating it in the world, not just rotating it. So let's try all of this again. That was a great big rabbit hole to go down to just discover that, well, we were going down the wrong hole entirely.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see again possibly before you go.
I swear I'm better at this one. I'm not like trying to talk my way through everything.
But if I mean, I'll put it in. And just stitch it all together, put it in basic vector passing over.
So why is my beard white at the end? Well, because this is where the white hair grows, and then up here the dark hair grows over it. So if I were to turn my beard up like this, it would totally be white at the start and dark at the end. So,
We lost the like change zone feature somewhere along the way.
So if I had a full day.
all right, so we're back.
So it's not that.
Finally.
We'll do that then.
I'll special.
New world editor. This is probably going to work perfectly. I'm going to be kind of embarrassed.
Andrew said something was going to work.
It's a new code. I'm sure it's going to work perfectly.
Yep. So, yeah. Always remember when you're transforming a position and a direction by a matrix, don't translate the direction.
What's up?
Just rotate it.
Figuring out things.
Well, right now I'm doing a review for JP for Cuban.
But it's the stuff that you got done.
Yeah, it's gonna take a while. There's a lot of stuff.
And one thing I noticed in there was that I got this one backwards too.
How long it's going to take. There's just a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I have to learn and understand.
So that's not actually going to hit anything. And while I'm out here, I'm going to go back and put my pointers and things back the way they had been. Well, we'll do that later.
No, I know, but I mean, is that getting we're still on paper for getting the studio stuff done, all everyone, so they can use them.
Yeah, the Visual Studio stuff is more important than the game.
Just checking. Trying to think. Sometimes I do that.
No, it's fine.
Hey, in my character sheet, you said I got 2 points and you assigned it to 2 things.
You have 2 extra character points.
So I can do what I
You can
want.
spend those on other things, so hold on.
It's easy to experiment very well.
Yeah.
Is character trait 1 point per character trait?
And loading,
There's no like
loading,
experience
loading.
points to get one of these.
You just make that point. They're just effective.
There's diminishing returns on those, so like if you're trying to boost up a skill, it takes more and more points to get to the next.
Loading, 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 loading.
So
like the same thing.
okay, so I have 2 extra points and I can assign them something, but I don't necessarily know the costs of things I'm going to assign. So I should wait for the game to figure that out.
Or you can leave,
Sure.
but who wants to do that?
Yeah, no,
What else? You can also just kind of
So, When I click on this, what happens?
no, unless I'm gonna die. Can you use it as a get out of jail die card? Really?
Yeah.
Points are that bad?
Go back to the
What are your protectors?
So
basically,
input
if I keep saving
selection.
them,
and
not spending them, my chances of dying will go up, but I'll always get myself out of jail with them.
see what happens.
It'd be awesome. Oh god, we still
So-
have Tom's character. We're dragging along. Come on, Ensign.
No hit thing when I click there. Now, when I click here, do I actually hit a thing? Hey look, I hit a thing! And I'll just remember that, 94EFC28. What did I hit here? Same one. Alright, so how about I click exactly on this guy? Do I hit him instead? Well, I hit a different thing, and there's only 2 things. So we now have triangle accurate hit testing within the editor. So first thing I'm going to do with this, now that this is working, let's get a snapshot of this so that I don't make a bigger mess out of anything. I'd say commit to my local branch over in Git. Yeah, that's a bug fix. Going through all of the things I'm about to commit, just taking a look at them. Probably looks better if I do it up here. Yeah, some of this is things that's not quite ready yet, but the basics of tracing array against stuff, yeah, let's commit that action. Basics of triangle collisions in editor. And now that's committed, and I can make as big a mess as I want with this and it'll still be okay. So first thing I'm going to do is go back to zone, or rather our mesh provider interface, and change it so we're storing the actual tri-tree items in the tree instead of copying things over large swaths of things, or instead of like allocating a billion things all over the world. That should all still work. and that all still compiles. So now what I need to do, now that I'm actually figuring out triangle for triangle exactly how I clicked on one renderable object, I'm going to get a way to get back from a renderable object to the high-level idea of a placeable thing, not just some random mesh. To do that, I'm going to go to Zone Placeable here in Zone Editor and say placeable renderable root. Actually, I think I'll pull this out to its own class because I don't want to have to pollute this header file with a whole bunch of stuff about, about renderable stuff, because we want the C# side to be able to interact with this at a really high level. So, in Zone Editor, I'm going to add a new file, which is just make a new header file. Zone Placeable render root. Type all my standard generic boilerplate stuff. Everything in my Zone Editor namespace, because I'm awesome like that. Not really. And now Visual C is just being annoying with that highlight. So, Zone Placeable, or go back here, rip this stuff out, and make this include Zone Placeable render root. And compile and see what breaks. Okay, yeah, so we've got everything we need. Oh, I already made one of these. Ha ha ha. Look at me already making exactly the thing that I'm making right now. So, but now it needs to be exposed externally. This is what happens when I keep getting interrupted to do like 90 different things. So that does not render itself, and one more thing we want to have in here, which is give it a placeable ID. So that gives it an ID that is publicly queryable, and now we can go back over to just placeable and say, instead of making a placeable root renderable, making a placeable render root. If I update the name the way I said I was going to. ID. So now we can go over to our selection code, and here where we do this, instead of doing that, what we'll do is when we hit something, we will just walk up its tree looking for a placeable render root. Yes, actually include this file. So this will, every time we hit anything, we will walk up its tree to see, looking for some sort of placeable render root. If we find one, we will get the ID off of it. Otherwise, we'll just keep on walking up. And might as well make that const, because const is always a good thing. And building fun. What if I hit the root on the first attempt? So then this will be true, and we will set the result, and then break out of this little while loop. Otherwise, we'll go up the parent until we get a null parent, which means, you know, we're nowhere. So back to the editor. So half cube over here has a placeable ID of 328 blah blah blah. Set my breakpoint here, and result equals none. Yep, result is what it should be. And then this visual target guy, 1689 blah blah blah. Click him, and result is, so now yes, we're getting the exact placeable ID of what I clicked on. And at this point, I'm going to have to break and call in outside help from JB. 1 second.
What?
Come to me, JB.
What's up?
Okay, so here I am in the editor, because JB is our most expert WPF person. Basically, I'm sitting many levels down a call stack, and I know a placeable ID.
Okay.
I would like to tell this list here, change your selection to be that ID.
Oh, that's actually handled in the linking part of that. In the world editor control.
Okay, so JB says go here to world editor.
Can you open up the XAML? So I remember what my name is thing
Okay.
a long time ago.
JB says open up the XAML.
I don't need the design view. It doesn't work.
JB says I don't like the design view.
and Andrew repeats everything I says, even though it comes through on the mic perfectly fine.
Does it? Because
Yes.
this little boom mic's like right here in my face.
That little mic picks up everyone in the office.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like Ben was talking over there with Tim about stuff like at like normal, like quiet, kind of not loud voice, and pick them up.
Wow, directional mic fail.
Anyways, so scroll down, please. Down more, quite a bit. Down more. Alright, so we have the scene tree. Scene tree is what currently is
Selected item.
has the selected items. And that one has callbacks on if the place will change or selected item change. And I don't think that I wrote anything to go the other way. So this thing just goes one way, which is out from that. So we're gonna have to write into that control a change your thing.
Well, scene tree's our own class though, right?
Yeah, it's our own control.
Let's just see if it has a. Well, selected item has a setter. Is it that simple?
You could do that.
Okay. So just call
That's
it.
just not with binding through XAML. If you're gonna do that in code behind, yeah, just set selected item on the scene tree.
Okay, because I mean, there's ultimately no way to do the binding because this stuff's all like, knowing the actual ID of what I clicked on is way down in native code. So there's no way to bind native code to XAML.
So just selected item equals that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I will do that then.
My branch is based off of 2012.
That's fucking teamwork.
Or just because everything's cool and it's contains the files. So it should be easier like copying the contents of those files.
I love it. Corey's just sitting over there singing the Lego movie about everything's cool in your power. I'm singing Fucker Gently. This is why it's mature content.
Did you check you're actually using that mic and not that mic?
Maybe. But I think, is it more entertaining for people if they hear the whole office?
It is, probably, but might be an interesting thing to check.
Tyler just doesn't want this to be an adventure. Oh yeah, we're totally using the camera on the mic on the camera instead of my voice. No wonder you get to hear everybody. Fun. I'll just get this out of my face then.
So I thought this time we were gonna go OBS.
Doesn't matter. Streamed code.
He was using the webcam.
Yeah. He's like, okay, look at the side of my face.
Okay, so let's see. How can I actually expose? Who should own the selection? Was that grid view the right one to own the idea of what is selected? We'll say yes. Because it makes life easier for now. suppose if I'm doing this right, I should probably make some sort of change selection event, which might actually exist if I knew my WPF better. So WPF
The scene tree owns all the items, by the way.
selection changed event.
So probably matters.
Well, actually, WPF change selection command.
By the way,
Yeah.
the scene tree owns all the items. That's how it is right now.
Yeah, scene tree owns all the items, and it also owns the idea of which item is selected. So I was just looking like, is there a nice way to just bubble this up from down in the view? Like, is there a change your selection event that I could, or a command that I could bounce up? Because that would be the right way, right?
You can set the selected index,
Yeah, I can. Well, I could always pass in the scene tree and
pass in an item, and then say that, or just select this thing by ID to the tree, and the tree finds the old ID and selects that, or pass it an actual item and it'll find it. However, it normally finds it by doing placeable equals.
What I'm trying to avoid, though, is having the 3D view actually know about the particular scene tree. Like, I'm trying to have something where it just sort of raises a command, bounces a command of change the selection to whatever.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so how would you do that?
That's fine. I would add a delegate onto the scene tree that just gets called and takes in either a placeable ID or a placeable. And you change the selection to that. And then inside the scene tree handle, we need a different. You just call a method on it. You don't even need a
No, I can.
delegate. Just call a method, change to this on the scene tree.
Yeah, like I said, though, I was just kind of trying to avoid passing the actual scene tree into the 3D view.
Oh, yeah, you don't do that.
Because that's the easy way. There's no question that's the easy way.
Yeah.
I can watch
You can
JB
fire
be lost in thought.
You can fire an event from the manage CLI that C# listens to, and then have the world editor listen to that event and then do something when that happens.
Yeah, I'm not like super sharp with
I made a
whole
build that
idea.
does that.
how. Okay, where
Um,
is it?
it was in the old zone updated. What?
You need to expose an SD call function that please call back.
So.
Oh my gosh, my lungs.
Well, in the old client managed stuff, there was a zone updated message.
Zone
It's probably just zone updated.
updated.
Just search zone updated.
Let's change the current window.
No, it's not currently, it doesn't find anything.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yep. Alright.
I was actually thinking like using the WPF full-on command handling kind of thing of like having an actual change selection command.
Okay,
But if this works, this works.
it's a little bit more complex.
Yeah, it's definitely the right way, but yeah, I can always pass in a delegate. Alright, we're doing this the lazy way. It's a scene render window, or not scene render window. How lazy can I be? Actually, I'm gonna go a little fancier and say the actual zone is what's going to do this. So
Typically, we do a relay on the main, so like an actual so it's actually a good comes equivalent to build.
So you I'm pretty sure it's not.
He was saying, hey, here's the thing I did. It was like a small which I could come up with something. Okay, well, one of you. Yes, you will actually, animation action layer is. I'm assuming it's this animation action layer is podcast. So.
let's make this a plain old placeable ID and go.
Whether or not. I know it's.
Usually have two placeable IDs. Oh, why do you hate me? Placeable ID.
I know, but I figured out to solve it right now. So we're not solving it right now, I'm just like, what up?
All the typecasts in the world. Back over here, says change selection callback.
His whole point was, should I work? And you were saying, no, this is.
Let's see. unseen trees not equal to null, unseen view is not equal to null.
Figuring out what say that like other part of it is really upper values. Spread across all
See.
things.
Just go build client manager now, so this stuff's up to date for IntelliSense purposes. Selected item, no joy. Now we need a way to get from a placeable ID to an actual placeable.
That's what we do. Accurate without the valid.
So many layers.
Sure. You divide up responsibility space in a certain way, or that, but hey, we have to give her 20%. This is this. I didn't know that's not true because something else takes it. So it just keeps hanging away. It's not what they said. How many pieces? Yeah.
So many layers of layers. This is probably the ugliest thing I'm going to write today. Oh, right. You don't even want to do that there. Yes, one last thing we actually have to do before this can go, which is back in the actual zone input selection. When we find this, really? It's gotta be zone. And there we are. That is totally an IKEA lamp in the background. Okay, so we're running it now, and what should happen is I should be able to click on something, and the selection in the little tree window will change, and all of the touching and clicking should be accurate down to the polygon, except in the case of animation. So I click the cube, and it goes there. So you can see, actually, as I click these things, it changes which one is selected, but it's not updating the actual view. So I'm going to say, hey JB! Since this is his code. Okay, so, scene tree.
What up?
Okay, you see over here, it's correctly picking up whatever I click on.
Mhm.
But this isn't updating.
Is the selected item actually changing and firing the property change notification?
So what's happening is we are coming over to the scene tree and we're calling selected item here. That's what's happening.
You're just setting the selected item?
Yes, but it looks to me like we're raising property changed events where we do.
Right. I'd have to look through it because that was
So there's some higher level thing.
selected index because it's got a containing control on it.
Okay, how about if we
Let's change
actually
that stuff.
click this, and is there some call stack? Yeah, so where is this coming from when I click that, whatever that's I'm gonna go over to the XAML,
I'm just thinking about short term.
even though you hate the XAML.
Me? I like that.
Ah. So it's this. Tree views on selected item changed.
That's what that calls. When you click it, yes.
Right, so when I click on this, it clicks on that. But going in the opposite direction,
You need to
There's
select
nothing- there's nothing
selected
till
item
the
and select your
preview.
text.
right? So
But it only has a binded item source, doesn't have a binded selected item.
Yes, that's fine.
it can be as simple as that.
So you have a existing,
If that is the item that will actually be found in the list, yes.
Was moved up to right.
I'll give this a try.
so.
I'll just
As they dip off of
set
this,
it in the tree view.
So, wait,
I guess the tree view is the master of who's selected, not the scene tree, but the tree view inside the scene. No, does not like it.
Because that's not the name of it. I don't think it's named.
Yeah.
Is it named?
Or do you remember
The
the
XAML.
RVT post?
Its name is tree.
So do RVT post dash, space dash U. It will, it might,
The internet has found
is that what you brought to?
The internet has found the problem.
yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who know WPF better than me.
This is they call it select T.
Why did you show it?
So much with this, I would.
I guess.
But
They're being cute.
So yes, sorry, but I don't think it's.
selected item is read only.
I have a two objection with it, so.
right? This is the bit that breaks.
Okay, so selected
Is
item
it
is
the
read
Dev
only.
Express one, or is it
Have to look at them. Because Dev Express one uses edit value.
It's the system one. System, or at least IntelliSense says it's the system one. That may be a lie. All right. Google time.
You can't have it's a tree view.
Right.
There is no selected item in a tree view. Yes. Right.
It has a selected item property.
Yeah. Because it's a tree, it's just gonna have it like index, it's not like a list view. But then it's just still like. It's not an item. It's just
Yeah. So okay, so it doesn't have it. It has a selected item getter. How do I make it highlight the thing I want it to?
You have to select the specific new. Which you need to find the proper name.
It's in the point that's basically ready to go. Like, we could put this is the we don't do because it has no scale. Yeah. I don't know, it's still good. Like, well, I can't do anything.
Well, this is the same problem.
I'm just going to wait for chat to be mad at me. Okay, so Zazamalek, help educate me on data bindings. Because I know this is gross. I don't want to have a delegate. I would like to, in some way, just like from my zone edit view, sitting down in C++ CLI, raise probably some sort of WPF command that would say change the selection to X. And just have that do the bubbling thing. But I'm not a WPF expert. If you can point me towards something, please do. Because in my ideal happy world, these two things should not actually need to know about each other. My programming senses tell me this.
They're tingling.
In the short term, though, I'm going to live with this. Because good enough right now is better than perfect eventually.
Do I just leave it and let me do it because it's WPF and it's tree view and it's a pain in the ass?
Yes, I'm going to commit this. I'm going to commit this, and JB can.
Oh, I love it. Time to share.
Yep. Sharing's caring, JB.
Because I go through the select nodes and select the proper node because even though it looks like a straight list, how you have it now with 2 items.
Yeah, I know it's actually a tree. So committing in Git. Click on things in the scene view to select them badly. Let's have no illusions about what this code is.
Oh, if we wanted to make all the new characters.
Alright, and I'm going to take a short break and point the camera way over at JB land. Get almost. Oh wait, no, that's head of bull. But beyond head of bull is head of JB. And I will be right back.
I'm not even on it. I don't know.
I can't really play the game with this, where even if we replace the yes, you might not be able to go to the but at least still be getting tested. I'm just saying it's hard to
So I would
do, but that's what I'm saying, eventually we put it there and multi-party.
You gotta hide your YouTube videos.
Cool.
Press around screen and what we're doing.
What is this?
On? No.
But okay, so that's so then we don't worry about it. Then let's look at it.
female versus male, there's no real thing. You don't have a race or a section like right now. The male. We don't have a definition of a base. As long as we have a piece of those advices pants, I can make them for this base name model. Okay, then let's look at that. Great if we could just put in fact, there's Scott, go to basic model of the editor, and replace his pelvis head with the parents. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, give it a new. So JB. I'll place this piece with whatever. We have links to this.
Guess who's back? Back again. Andrew's back. Declare a friend. It's the nerdiest joke ever. Also, Capicola, yes, I committed it to my local repo to a branch in my local repo without review so that JB could also grab that branch out of my local repo so we could collaborate. So, let's see, catching up on everything. Putting on my headphones again, and okay, so now we can actually click on something to select it, but actually also want to go in the opposite direction and have some kind of highlight on the thing that is selected. So I'm going to search for selected item changed in here. Where's tree on selected item, which is in scene tree XAML. So I have a selected placeable here too. Starting to be a little skeptical about the number of places we store what is the currently selected placeable. So I'm thinking a refactor is definitely in order, especially once I go in later today and add in zone or add in editing terrain control points as things that can be selected too. So currently selected item or items may need to become part of the zone itself, or the editable zone.
Does she work better when she sets?
It's not supposed to be the thing with the commits.
What'd you say, JB?
My anim stance is commit. It says the commit is called fixed conflict. After I did a rebase, I changed the commit to stance animations. That's helpful. I know, right? Yay, get history.
Oh,
It's got a learning curve to it. It's a little bit of a learning curve.
I just need to figure
So,
out how to submit it so you don't see all of my commits, which were mistakes.
Can, I just,
Well, yeah, you can do that with the interactive rebase in this question, which I did, and I named it animation stances, and then it somehow got fixed conflict.
yeah,
Yeah.
my girlfriend is making fun of me for doing UI related things. This is awesome. Like, UI programming, it's not real programming. Real programmers jam. Real programmers just jab oscilloscopes into their CPU and debug it by looking at the traces.
The party's influence thing that you wanted, that area of condition that you wanted.
Signal out analysis or go home.
Because we were just talking about it. Because he wants to see his animation in the game with the
So-
fancy code to see if it looks good.
Anyway. One way or another, we're going to know which things are selected. And
I'm not supposed to worry about what I'm worried about it because I want to see that.
I don't know if they're copying each other. Okay, I figured that might be the
I just feel grosser and grosser with every single line.
It's one of these that have to be on this.
Yep, we're doing this. We're doing this, and I feel so dirty.
Yeah, this is the title section. Or is it just-
Okay, so struct selectable. And this is later also going to get a train grid position. But for now, it's just getting selectable. And give it a nice little hash code.
Oh, I get all of it. Well, first off, that's the book. Of course it's not. We did this.
You're watching the digital too.
That was very important.
Yeah. Really,
I'll check it out.
Or rather,
Yeah, so,
You go back.
it's gonna be cool, like every week.
What's the odds of this? Really take that to what's like, it's, I really think it's a lot easier for me to
It's like low idle combat things, whatever that is. I think that's why when I wrote that up, I kind of look at it as like, you're still in that stage, right? Like adding things on top of it, so you're like taking away from back to that previous level. So it's, to some degree, you have to have that information saved, like the entire time.
I mean, we will, so I don't know what you do with the whole. Reset of tracks.
Because like the action will be like change stance, right?
Right.
So
Conceivably, I mean, it could be, it could be like change stance of tracks. Or it could be like a, fire the payload that doesn't change the stance, right? And do all of these things. And then another stance
or
after that changes the stance. What I'm trying to figure out right now is order of operations. Like,
be
if
nice.
I'm deploying a payload and I'm resetting the stance block after I assume, right? It's like we definitely want to apply and then delete.
Oh, yeah,
But then we want to change stance after.
So this is a little bit future-proofy,
Yes. What component do I store in the stance?
but
well, when you went from travel states to low idle combat states, were you building up that stat block at that time?
Yes.
So if we wipe that, when we fire our arrow, and then we do that same transition, since we're going from just fire to arrow to that same stance. Is it integrating that same stance, building that stat block back up? The same way travel stance is that stance, building that block right up?
Difference is, whatever button you push, whatever component you use to push to go from travel to bow item, could be a different component than whatever you push to go from
so now we have this idea of
fire arrow.
what is a thing that we have selected, and it has a hash table and equality comparisons, which is your basic requirement for doing this.
If you don't want like a nuclear option for reset on the step block, maybe we just want to reset stances that you see these, or maybe you don't reset any of them. And
So we have yet another concept of selection down in here, but I'm probably going to push us towards having this as the canonical selection.
Going to be overrated if you interchange.
so with firing the arrow, the things that we do deploy payload, use these sort of stats. Interchange stands, but don't reset and don't store this component that they were in this stance with whatever component we already have. And so then the stored effect.
And eventually, this thing will be the thing that owns the idea of what in the zone is selected, because it is the zone itself. But for now,
If you're making up stats that are like, these are all going towards what
when we get notified that the selection is changed,
but if you're at some point being like, man, you run faster, then you'll just run faster forever because status effect.
And that's, I think that's the thing that's going to be so much more effect on the characters we're talking about, modifying the all we're talking about.
Yeah, well, let's say you added, increased piercing damage. Right. So you go through your arrow fire sequence thing, and then you start using the dagger, and you have increased piercing damage because we did that as part of our thing to try to make arrows fire better.
And that would be the change.
so we've made a set of the things that are selected,
So that.
and we have a set of the things that are not selected. So what we want to do is
That's the question, people know from travel to bow idol, is that even maybe that just doesn't have. They both seem to have modifiers, like it has. No, whatever happens, travel to bow idol or whatever. You want that? Yeah. That's just basically a
I've not lost forage yet, or remote. Yeah. I imagine that will happen soon.
so if it's not already selected,
Oh, reset. But
You should destroy all.
assets.
but resetting is probably going to be an exception. Because that particular story, or
So what I'm doing is I'm iterating over the entire new selection, which in this initial implementation is only going to have one thing in it. And
If you wanted it to be like super flexible, what you do is enumerate them, right? Where it's like, there's a stance editor, you make up all of these stances.
that's going to be a thing.
Okay, well, if that's
so
gonna be a
in this
thing,
case, we want to set that thing to
create and destroy, right? For all
selected,
examples.
otherwise we
And so I would
don't. So
actually script an action basically, which is like, fire an arrow, use stat block this and this if you have them, or require that we have requirements or whatever. And then after that, destroy stat block this and clear them out so we don't have them anymore. And then we just would do that to the basic stance one.
That's sort of how I'm setting it up. It's, trying to get the big picture so that I know how to set it up so that we can do those things, but also trying to get the users right now that won't control.
Oh, yeah,
For now, I just.
but it's like, for the start. Wait, what, yeah, wait.
Hello.
It's actually.
What?
I'll show you on tomorrow.
Who wants to take the stairs?
Not me.
So here we're going through, and anything that's not already selected, we select it to true. Otherwise, we remove it from the set, and then we iterate over all the things that are currently selected and say, which means the stuff that didn't get erased up here, and that's the stuff that's not in the new selection, and
Or in this particular case, like we want to go from travel to photo items, we want to store that. But when we fire, we want to go to photo items, and we don't want to store that.
Right.
So we'll make whether or not the store the staff wants to go to that's optional.
and more music because we love music.
Can you stand for store?
And eventually that needs to be an action where it's just like delete stat block.
We think of the case where we want to store like the ability to stat modifiers, but not child effects. Or like the child effects being poison.
Let's just listen to some more Barrows. I like Barrows. Barrows is good thinking music.
Also trying to get in the same. And in doing that, I want to their files from
Make one function to do this. This is going to actually manipulate the, the actual visible zone renderable things.
And I want to save those ability components. But that's a weird case where like we want to store stuff and we want to reset things at the same time. And the stuff that we're storing was designed to be modified.
I think as long as we have the ability to save stuff and delete stuff as actions, we decide we really want to do those things. So it's like save, use, and delete.
So now we can have much more complicated selections.
Weird. It's our own fault because we have these actions and we can perform them in the order we wanted that.
Finally, and there we are. So I'm going to extract this too. So I make this notified selection change method, and there we are with a thing that can select both terrain control points and any number of things. And the last thing we need to do over here is zone placeable.
That's where.
So I have a selection box around this when it's selected.
Look at this, right? What's cool with this arm?
So if we're not selected, we do have a selection box. Not selected, and or here's the case where we have to actually make something. So there's scene. Make our gizmo. And I'm just going to be lazy real quick just to make sure this is doing what I want it to do. Yes, have to actually include my gizmo. Okay, so this will just draw like a big white box around whatever is currently selected. Except for one last thing we need to do, which is
I'm not sure what I do about that, can I prove you that? I should be actually doing this to this thing.
um,
I just, yeah, look at the one pass it, see if I have he has a rope that he walks back and he takes that rope, it's all these pieces.
Yeah, so there was
And there are all the things.
There's like that open that I was talking about, like, it's not a television. No, I looked through like a quick,
What did I miss?
where the actual truth is.
Lack of a hash.
How the rich. Yeah, like, because it can't just pull that. Well, when it's on fire.
Also here.
Bring it all the way down. You get tension on it. Yeah, it's like, you get it all the way down, it's still fucking tension. You hook something to it, and release the leash. And my thought is the rope then free flies, pulls. But that seems a little weird. Yeah. But you had to pull it down somehow, so whatever, hold it down as to then release to let it back out. That same mechanism.
Fixing all my errors, fixing all my errors. Which line is this? Should have made it type def. Yeah.
I mean, that's what's illustrated here. You want to just pull it down the rope.
Just making it type def.
Let go of that. It doesn't look like it's going fast. It's a slow, big sheet. It's a slow sheet. I mean, it does a big one versus. How fast do you figure the end of that one? How fast do you figure the end of that part? Questions like where they're actually. I actually release the. Well, in this case, these two at rest. It's not like the control of the.
Everybody happy now? Alright.
That's at rest. Looks like it's just something.
Why don't you like me? Oh, I think we're down deep in here. Listable IDs are already hashes, basically, though. Or at least they're random numbers. We'll live with this.
down as you're talking. So it's up to task.
It's saying.
It's always, it says it's up to talking.
Okay, but this, yes, yeah. Okay.
I don't know why it's for this.
So I should not worry about it.
And my brain is just clearly not working. I've forgotten how to use unordered map, as sometimes happens when, well, you try and do this as live performance. Because I totally meant to say unordered set. It's always the simple things. Always the simple things.
So, the bit I can't figure out is if you're doing the main challenge really stuff. But,
Well, I mean, it seems like this little lock here,
then it would just fall,
like you would need to have something to disengage that.
yeah, but then it would just like respin as it pulls back out.
Look at,
Well, that's just the drag force pulling back against it, so.
they actually have the up like this to fall out.
Not very big. Yes, they just got a bunch of guys with a rope pulling it back down. Well, that, this bit would be the one.
Just punch you down the road.
How is the rope?
Cover the managed and native kinds.
Like, I've never actually seen a person figure out where it actually happened. So he winched it down, there's rope attached here, that pulled it down, right there. There's the back. And see, he's just pulling it in. Yeah, he just pulls it in and releases the rope. Yeah, what happens to the rope? Where's the rope? There it is. It's hanging down. There it is. And so you get like that's the yeah. So they just get pull that rope. So the rope is sleepy ropes. That's what happens. They basically punch the rope on the
So many typecasts. Unfortunately, it's kind of necessary to avoid accidentally going through a 32-bit value as an intermediate sometimes.
I know.
C++ CLI is not always the best thought-through thing in the world.
And then somewhere he's pulling.
And one last thing I forgot to do.
Well, no, getting recode is, the rope is the whole body of it.
Or rather, one next to last thing that I forgot to do. There's always one more thing.
I'm less worried about
These won't be clickable gizmos, so it really doesn't matter what I put here.
Yeah, I was just doing the part that's fresh session just now.
Was that?
-1. Oh, yeah, I did.
Nice dude.
Okay, hopefully that takes care of that. Of course not. What did I forget? This is what going very fast looks like. And finally, there we are, actually building. Okay. Load this up and bonk. So something about removing the boxes when things are selected is not working. Because I need to actually set this so that it can be removed. Why was that const? That should never have been const. Too many consts. Here we go. Come on, big money, no double selection boxes.
Well, the short answer is that big thing is not correct. The big threshold. Yeah, where it starts to do big boat things and what wings over there, like that's what is correct is I don't know. But there's just like some pull rope or something hanging on there. I'm just worried about the scroll accuracy. Function. But it's a little. That's what it's. Yeah, like, yeah. Yes, right. So wait, I said pull rope off, that would be where players can interact with it, like pull it. Yeah, I don't know how that.
So this should be the one that deselects things, except it's not. Because I am a butt.
I wouldn't worry about being close to it, I'd worry about it having a force pulling back against the. Yeah, it wouldn't make sense if the force is on it, you would just get something. Like everybody's their notes and piece for the player taking attention.
I was just going to interrupt and say that Ben and I are talking about the mechanics of trebuchets, and that's why my job's awesome. I don't know if anybody can hear it, but every time I put my headphones on, I can hear myself talking about trebuchets in the background.
I'm a big fan of trebuchets.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out how to make them look like they mechanically would work.
They should work like trebuchets.
Yeah, I think they should work like
Do
trebuchets.
you know how they work, Paul?
No, he's trolling me here.
But I think we're right, but I just don't understand what these.
You put the thing in the thing and then it kills people.
There's, our version of it where it's really well on it. Could be I would go. So I would do that. So here's what
So we're looking pretty good now. I'll load up a bigger zone. Make sure I can click on the things I actually want to click on. This thing does take approximately forever to load in and render because, well, this is like the Uber debug build. So there's that box. Click on this. Click on this tree.
Sir, do you know why the server patcher would be having these problems with the graphics? If I had to guess, I think it gets
Okay,
all
so I
of the
think we
channel
still got some
files,
things to do with
and then
selecting
pulls
things
their
properly.
Stuff out of GridFS. We blasted a crap ton of stuff from GridFS, but probably didn't delete the channel files. But they should have been replaced by now. I noticed on my chat server the thing I had to fix earlier. When you did the refactor over to Git and cleaned up all of the PDUs and stuff, changed the path that the chat server was getting written out to.
Oh, I did.
Because before it was like, bin/22/chat server/chat server.exe, and now it's bin/22.
Yeah, so
There's definitely plenty in the wrong folder, so that was one of the pushes I did this morning, just to get it working.
yeah, we're selecting things outside the bounds of things that should be selected.
For the channel.
Still need to work on that, but at least we are putting the highlight on the thing that we have selected now, which was the goal. So now we need to make that highlight look better and not just be a random box on the thing.
Okay.
Come back to actually working on things.
I set up a new channel for warming prep. Basically, for the intermediary channel for we're going to that.
So first thing we're going to need to do is just draw a box actually around the thing we're selecting.
It should function even in spite of.
So here's our zone placeable, and we're just going to remember that
Does is
ignoring any gizmos, that will be the bounds of the object before we transform it, rotate it, etc.,
so
etc.
we got one link prep server, right? I already clicked install on it, and it just sits at like
Then we will
it's there. This just spins one of those favorite files.
let's see. We'll just initialize that to garbage.
Obviously, this is, yeah, probably, but how do you,
I mean, your best bet is either to start with chat server and figure out, what changes the paths of the things back where they were, or
Chat server is anonymous.
And then when we load a model,
Sorry, but it's not on that channel.
Right. But that channel might have channel files that the PDBs are going to be the same size, which means they're going to be the same as 5. So if we leave those, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I thought it would be 5 for the timestamp as well.
Well,
No, I
it
guess
might be, but it's only going to build it once.
Yeah.
get the bounds off of that.
So you might just need to go and do some housekeeping on channel files with comms.
Then, now that we have those bounds, do something useful with them.
That sounds like fun. Or you can check the data and see if there's any, just ignore those errors.
that's what I think.
Those channel files need to get removed anyways, because those PDBs aren't, that's probably what it is. There's PDBs, I deleted all those PDBs, and then when we transferred over that, I also cleaned up where PDBs were.
Right, exactly. And there's probably just a real easy
So if we have a valid bound, we will just highlight that.
Does that mean that channel, like the start with that channel is starting from the.
Yeah.
That's definitely. // because I
just make this simple, simple, simple.
Well, like I said,
See where I'm going with this.
What I'm saying is that the thing that holds on to the flow is extremely. I hooked it on, that was work. What you need is something like this. So that one is done.
Like draw a little box around the object is the idea.
It's the
That's our error here.
bed sheets.
That would left in, try to think. Sorry.
There's no error there.
No, I get what I'm
So that'll draw 4 of our lines.
that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Alright, I've got a user base. Tyler, we need the guy coming to
Well, no, I'll have him
on this side, put steps.
Put in another in the Y direction. And last of all, we'll do this in the X direction. And that should make a nice little cage around the object that's selected to show us its actual bounds. So, as we wait for it to load up. And wait for it to start up. Load up our world editor. And we get a big fat nothing. That's awesome. So what is...
We bought it. So that's
it's system, it's not system.
It is a 1 terabyte.
What is our actual bounce here? Did we just get a shitty bounce?
I don't think that the system is now.
Yes, we did.
The system has nothing to do at all with code composition. I need to put
Okay.
code on it.
Great, he's not missing. What about those 250s? The two.
They're not 250s, they're 128s. And they might be bad.
What about,
Well, they might be bad.
what about the control?
Might be bad.
Let me check and see if there's one. I think that might have been the last one.
And then break the computer again. If not, I'll get you a 500.
Oh, I think I know exactly what's wrong. It doesn't actually get any kind of transform until after it's attached into the tree, so. And just make sure that's what's going on while I'm here, so I don't have to do this twice. World transform is in fact, yep. World transform isn't valid, therefore the local bounds aren't valid yet either. So what we actually need to do is just set it, give it a local transform, then it will figure out where it is in its local space before we load anything up.